Living in a HUD house on the reservation, I found that it didn't always accommodate the ways that Indigenous families lived. And our families are constructed, I think, in a different sort of like nuclear family model that post-war housing basically proliferated the country with. So for instance, my grandmother lived with us for a while after her husband, my step-grandfather, died. And it was a few months. And so it was a few months of me sleeping on the couch while she slept in my bed. That was a living situation that was not atypical. It changed my sort of spatial cognition of what a home is and how you exist within it. What I began to realize over time was that these struggles were happening across the country. They're happening in Canada. They're happening anywhere this sort of government housing is happening for Indigenous people. And it's usually associated with HUD in that way, meaning as rental properties. What I found is they're built all the same. And this is what I really began to realize over time of looking and examining these homes is that fundamental lack of care about just the place, just the simple, let's build a quality home for this specific climate is not there. And that's troubling. What I'm trying to build is a way of showing how Indigenous people think about space and think about their dwelling. I don't see this as a solitary sort of solution. And I don't see myself as the one person being able to do that. I would need the help of other sort of nations to be able to say, okay, let's have these conversations. But I hope different kinds of people, just Indigenous people, non-Indigenous people, that government officials, policymakers, lawyers, politicians, whoever comes to this thing and begins to ask these questions, why aren't we really addressing this? I would say the biggest thing for me that I would want someone to understand about the piece that I've done is that it really isn't grounded in Indigenous knowledge. And when I say that, what I mean is not in the sort of knowledge systems that we're accustomed to, like fact, science, data, history, even that's questionable, the way that histories are told, but to understand that Indigenous knowledge also includes visions, dreams, hallucinations, different kinds of alternate realities. Things that we can't explain are also part of our knowledge system almost as fact. You can have an alternate reality. It can stand for other things. Is this an animal that you've happened upon? Is it a house? Is it an installation? Is it art? Is it architecture? The answer is yes to all of those things, right? It's just a simple yes. I've broken it down into a few components that a lot of Indigenous architecture has, that this piece has. One is the idea of the hearth. Frank Lloyd Wright used it all the time, right? His homes are centered on it. But this is a thing that is similar in indigeneity. How do these things apply to me as an Indigenous person? There's always a fire. And that fire has multiple uses, meaning it's a source of heat, it's a source of cooking, but it's also a ceremonial thing. It's a place for people to gather. It's a place for people to come together and counsel. The other thing that it has is a view to the sky. I am actually thinking about my non-human relatives in this piece. I hope a bird makes a nest in that. I hope a bird nests in the hearth. I hope some squirrels climb it. Yeah, why not? Because if I'm doing that, then that's proof to me that I've done something too that is for all living things. What I want is this to be able to develop into a larger notion about how houses could be constructed, how they could be made in this sort of modular fashion, and that the modules you can add a module, you can take a module off, you can move a module to your neighbors. No, some people might not like what I did, and that's fine. They don't have to live in it. But the problem is that Indigenous people had to live in the things that were given to us. And I'm trying to say, okay, let's think about this thing differently. Let's make the anti-HUD house what My HUD house was, and this is how I would do it.